No one on Corvus Station had ever seen a human refuse armor before a training session. It wasn't bravery. It wasn't arrogance. It was something the alien recruits wouldn't understand until the day their lives depended on it. Marcus Hale was 41 years old, and he had spent the last 3 years as a civilian contractor aboard Corvus Station, a massive alien military outpost belonging to the Draven Coalition. To the recruits training there, he was simply the human. Quiet, unremarkable, always dressed in a plain gray combat shirt, while everyone around him wore reinforced battle armor worth more than most soldiers' annual pay. Every morning, the elite guard trainees would gather in the central training hall, a massive steel arena surrounded by observation decks. And every morning, Marcus would walk in wearing nothing but his simple uniform. No plating, no shield generator, no weapon at his hip. It made no sense to them. The Draven Coalition's elite guard was the most feared fighting force among the allied alien species. Warriors bred and trained from childhood, augmented with cybernetic enhancements, armored in tech far beyond anything Earth had ever produced. And yet here was an unarmored human, casually sipping from a metal cup, waiting for training to begin as if he had nowhere else to be. One recruit, a young Draven soldier named Corin, finally asked the question everyone had been whispering for months. "Why do you not wear armor, human? Do you not fear us?" Marcus set down his cup and looked at the young soldier with calm, steady eyes. "Because I'm not here to fight you," he said simply. "I'm here to train you, and you can't teach someone to trust their instincts if you're hiding behind a wall of metal." The recruits exchanged confused glances. To them, armor wasn't just protection, it was identity, rank, tradition. The idea of standing before them without it seemed almost insulting. What none of them knew was who Marcus Hale truly was before he ever arrived at Corvus Station. 10 years earlier, Marcus had served as a special operations commander during humanity's darkest conflict, the Colonial Uprising, a brutal 3-year war fought against rogue AI factions that had taken control of 6 human mining colonies. Marcus had led missions with no backup, no reinforcements, and often no armor at all, because the AI-controlled combat drones could track and target armor's energy signatures. Soldiers who wore heavy plating became walking targets. Soldiers who moved light, fast, and unpredictable were the ones who survived. Marcus had survived. Not because of strength alone, but because he had learned to read a fight before it happened, to move with instinct, not equipment. When the war ended, Marcus retired quietly, refusing medals, refusing publicity. He wanted a simple life. That's how he ended up training alien recruits on a remote station, far from Earth's spotlight, teaching skills that had nothing to do with armor thickness or weapon specs. The Draven Elite Guard, however, had never faced an enemy like the ones Marcus once fought. Their training focused entirely on strength, armor, and firepower, brute force over adaptability. And Marcus knew that mindset would eventually get them killed. He decided it was time to prove his point. During the next training session, Marcus proposed a challenge. 3 of the station's top elite guard trainees, fully armored and armed with training weapons, against Marcus alone. No armor, no weapon, just his hands and his instincts. The recruits laughed. Commander Threll, the station's senior officer, allowed it, mostly out of curiosity. The match began. The 3 armored trainees moved with practiced precision. Coordinated strikes meant to overwhelm any opponent through sheer force. But Marcus wasn't there when their strikes landed. He ducked beneath a heavy swing, redirected a soldier's own momentum into another attacker, and disarmed the third before any of them fully understood what had happened. Within 90 seconds, all 3 recruits were on the ground, their weapons scattered, their armor dented from being used against each other rather than Marcus. The training hall fell into stunned silence. "Armor makes you predictable," Marcus said, helping the last recruit to his feet. "Your enemy learns your movement patterns, your weak points, your habits. But without it, you're forced to think, to adapt, to feel the fight instead of relying on machinery to protect you." Commander Threll stepped forward, visibly shaken. "You fought 3 of my best soldiers unarmed and undefeated. Who are you truly?" Marcus hesitated for a moment before answering honestly for the first time since arriving at the station. "I commanded human special forces during the Colonial Uprising." We fought enemies that could track armor, predict formations, exploit technology. We survived because we learned to fight without depending on any of it. The recruits, who had once seen Marcus as strange and reckless, now looked at him with a newfound respect, not because of a title or rank, but because of what he had shown them with his own hands. Over the following months, Marcus's training methods completely transformed the elite guard's approach to combat. He taught them to move without over-reliance on their armor, to anticipate rather than react, to fight smarter instead of simply harder. Recruits who once dismissed him as an eccentric human outsider began requesting him personally as their instructor. Young Corin, the soldier who had first questioned him, became one of his most dedicated students. "I still don't understand," Corin admitted one evening after a grueling session. "You could wear armor. You could make yourself safer. Why continue without it?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "Because the moment I put on armor, I stop teaching you how to survive without depending on it. And the day may come when your armor fails, when your weapon breaks, when all you have left is yourself. I want you ready for that day." Months later, that day came sooner than anyone expected. A surprise raid by a hostile faction breached Corvith Station's outer defenses, disabling the base's power grid and, with it, the elite guard's advanced armor systems. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives relying on powered exosuits and shielded plating suddenly found themselves stripped of every advantage they had known. Panic spread through the ranks, but not through Corin's unit. Trained by Marcus for months in unarmored, instinct-based combat, Corin and his fellow recruits adapted instantly. While other units struggled against the sudden loss of their equipment, Corin's team moved with the same fluid precision Marcus had drilled into them. Reading their enemies, redirecting attacks, fighting smarter rather than relying on failed technology. They successfully repelled the raid, buying critical time for the station's power grid to be restored, saving hundreds of lives in the process. When Commander Threll later reviewed the incident report, one name stood out clearly in the aftermath. Marcus Hale, the unarmored human instructor whose unconventional methods had prepared an entire unit for the one scenario no one else had planned for. Standing before the full elite guard afterward, Commander Threll addressed his soldiers. "We spent generations believing that strength was measured in armor, in weapons, in raw power. One human, without a single piece of armor, taught us that true strength lies in adaptability, in instinct, in the willingness to face uncertainty without something to hide behind." Marcus, standing quietly at the back of the formation as always, simply nodded when the soldiers turned to salute him, not out of formality, but out of genuine respect earned through action, not rank. Later that night, Corin approached him one final time. "Will you ever wear armor, Marcus?" Marcus smiled faintly, looking out at the stars beyond the station's viewport. "Maybe one day, but not until every soldier I train can survive without needing me to. Sometimes true strength isn't found in what protects us, but in what we're willing to face without protection at all." Marcus Hale never sought recognition, never wore a title, never hid behind armor or rank. He simply chose to prepare others for the moments that mattered most, not through fear, but through trust earned one lesson at a time. Because real strength was never about the armor at all. It was about who you became without it.